Hey, friend, welcome back to day two of our transformational moments, which is your taste and see opportunity to see what it's like within bite sized breakthroughs for busy women. Once you become a member, once a week, once a week, you'll get a transformational moment via video just like this, 15 minutes or less, where you're able to hear a thought, a perspective for you to ponder on. Remember, my goal is for you to experience transformation one aha at a time. It is my goal to help you get a PhD in you, honey, because once you truly understand you, you'll take away some of the projection you have on other people and you won't let folks project on you. So let's dive into our topic today. Let me be a bit transparent, okay? I want to get an A. I've always been that girl who wanted to get an A. In school, my mom and my sister used to tease me, my dad too, because I would say, oh my God, this was so hard, and it never failed. I ended up getting an A. When I would get a B, I would feel disappointed in myself. And baby, this is not even in my notes, but can we talk about that one time at the Clark Atlanta University? Here they come, y'all. Here they come. At Clark Atlanta University, y'all, I majored in mathematics. Don't worry about that. Don't you worry your heart about the fact that I majored in math. Well, I had to take, was it chemistry? No, it wasn't chemistry. Gosh, what was it? Maybe it was chemistry. I can't remember, but whatever it was, honey, I was failing, straight up failing. So I just stopped going to class. That's a message in and of itself. I'm going to talk about that actually within the program. I just stopped going to class, but I still had lab and I couldn't drop the lab because if I dropped the lab, I would lose my scholarship because I had to have a certain number of credits. And I got an F, a straight up F, A, B, C, D, E, finish the sentence, F in lab. Baby, somebody had to pick me up off the floor. And what did I think? Because I wasn't going to the lab class, I knew I was going to get an F. It was devastating. My point, I'm kind of a nerd. Can I tell y'all something else about me? I was the girl that the teacher would put in charge when it was time for her to step out of class, and I would take notes and tell it on the people who were talking. Latoya was talking. Christy was talking. Those are real friends. I would tell it on people. I wouldn't tell it on my friends, though, I don't think. My point is, I want to get an A. And since what I have found is even in friendships, I want to get an A. In relationships, I want to get an A. And so that desire for an A, that desire to pass, that desire to be the one that people say she's a really good friend or she's a very good person, it caused some challenges. The first challenge that it caused is my boundaries would be loose. I would do things I didn't necessarily want to do or agree to things I didn't necessarily want to agree with, or I really would take on responsibility emotionally for conflict because I didn't want to push back and risk not getting an A in the friendship or the relationship. Again, within Bite Size Breakthroughs for Busy Women, we're going to talk about people pleasing, we're going to talk about boundaries, we're going to talk about all that. But for now, the other issue, me wanting to get an A, the other issue is that it caused me to resist critique. I did not do well with critique. Someone having feedback about me that wasn't about me getting an A or about how amazing I was. It would feel initially like an attack, like a personal attack against me. And it took me a long time to realize that two things can be true at the same time. And it made it difficult for me to be able to sort through my stuff or somebody else's stuff. So I'm going to help you with that. If you can relate to this, if you have a hard time knowing, wait a minute, am I the one tripping or are they tripping? And if you have a hard time receiving critique, I got your back today in this transformational moment. Remember, I want you to take notes. I want you to write down the thing that really resonates with you. And then later on, take some time to reflect back on it. Okay. So the first thing when it comes to my resistance of critique, I had to stop and ask myself, Robin, what happens when you hear critique? Well, what would often happen is one of the five things that occur when we are in conflict. There are five responses we normally have in conflict. Let me tell you what they are. We either defend, which one are you? We either defend, dismiss, become disrespectful, deflect, or we shut down. We defend, dismiss, become disrespectful, deflect, or shut down. Now remember, here within Bite Size Breakthroughs for Busy Women, my goal is for these transformational moments to help you in every area of your life, personally, in your friendships, in your romantic relationship. I didn't say romantic relationships because I don't want y'all to have several romantic. So your romantic relationship, your work relationships, I want these transformational moments to go across the gamut of your life. And so I want you to pause and ask yourself, when in the midst of conflict or when receiving critique, do you defend? Do you become defensive? Do you dismiss? Another word could be project. I'm going to break these down. Do you become disrespectful? Do you begin to deflect, or do you begin to shut down? Okay. Do you become defensive? In other words, as soon as somebody gives a critique or you're in conflict, do you begin to defend your position without hearing what they really have to say? Do you begin to tell them why they are wrong about what they are saying about you or what they are saying about the issue before you take a moment to really hear them? Do you become defensive? Do you begin to dismiss? Maybe you acknowledge it, but you water it down. Oh, girl, that wasn't a big deal. Or you're tripping. I don't know why you're so sensitive. Do you become dismissive? Do you begin to be disrespectful? Now, disrespectful could be in what you say or even in what you do. Wives, let's talk for a minute. You know your man is talking to you and you can act like you don't hear him and look at the phone, and you know he hates when you do that. Do you become disrespectful? Do you deflect or project? Do you say, yeah, I know I might do that, but you do this? Do you become the person who deflects it off of you and puts it on somebody else? Or do you shut down? You just don't interact at all. You don't engage. You stop fooling with the person because they said something about you that was a critique. What is your response? Remember, I told you I want to get an A. And so that undercurrent of wanting to get an A, wanting to be approved, wanting to be acknowledged. Don't let me forget, those of you who become members of Bite Size Breakthroughs for Busy Women, post in the community that I need to share with you the emotional needs assessment, because we all have an emotional need. And when I talked about shutting down, it made me think about the fact that my emotional need really is, when I say I want to get an A, it's really wanting acceptance. A is for acceptance. I want to be validated. And so when it seems like there is a threat against that validation, one of these five responses happen. If I were to say which of these five I do the most, I think my husband would say that I deflect. I think he would say I deflect. But how I show up with my husband may be different than how I show up in relationships. That's a note for you to take right there. How you show up with your spouse or your significant other may be different than how you show up with your girlfriends or how you show up at work. So if your girlfriend is having an issue with you and you go tell your man and your man is like, oh, she's tripping, that's not you. No, baby, you may not show up with him the way you show up with your homegirls, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. I want you to identify which of these five ways do you show up. Do you defend, dismiss, become disrespectful, deflect, or shut down? Once I understood why I was having such a reaction, once I understood that two things can be true, Robin, this person can have this critique of you that may or may not be true. We're going to talk about that in a minute. This person may have a critique of you that may or may not be true. I can hear it and not see it as a reflection of who I am, or who I am as a friend, or who I am as a spouse, or who I am as a coworker. I can hear it without it being a reflection of who I am at my core. I want you to take that away. You can hear a critique without it being a reflection of who you are. But if you don't slow your life down long enough to understand why you respond the way you do, you will be pushing away what could be valuable feedback. But what if it isn't? What if it isn't valuable feedback? Because here's the thing, everybody is not in bite sized breakthroughs for busy women. Everybody isn't doing the work. And if they aren't doing the work, they could very easily project what is really their stuff and make it your stuff. So, how do you know? How did I begin to determine, wait a minute, is this feedback valuable or is it not? Well, you must build a circle of trust. I have different circles of trust, but one of my friend circles is called the advisory board. And we like to say we are each other's advisors. You need a circle of trust, people who you have, listen to this, who you've given permission to tell you the truth about you. People who are not afraid to be honest with you. People who see you fully and not just as their best friend who never does anything wrong. People who will celebrate you, tell you you're the bomb, clap when you walk in the room, but will also say, girl, you tripping about that. Nah, girl, you are out of pocket with that. You need a circle of trust that you give those people permission to tell you the truth about you. Now, I've had to come to terms that there are some relationships where I thought I had that place in their life. My girlfriend, she termed it placement issues. She wasn't necessarily talking about me, but she termed it placement issues, and I have just stolen it from her. I'm just going to say I borrowed it. I have borrowed it from her. Placement issues suggest that sometimes people think they have a different place in your life than they really do. And I must admit, I have had placement issues. And so I wait for people to give me permission. I need to know that we have that kind of relationship, that I can tell you the truth and you can tell me the truth. As a matter of fact, that's an indicator to let me know the depth of my relationship with someone, if we can be really honest with each other. And so you build a circle of trust, you give them permission to tell you the truth. And then when you hear a critique, you can then take that critique to those people. And those people don't necessarily, and it's even better if they don't even necessarily know each other. Is that better? I think it's better. But it doesn't have to be that. But this is not people who are going to confer together to determine. They all know you individually, right? And so if you have five people in this circle of trust and you bring a critique, you know what? I was talking to somebody and they said this about me. And if none of those people agree with that, then that's a great indicator that maybe what that person said about you was really their stuff and not necessarily your stuff. For the most part, if no one else in your circle in different areas of your life has experienced you like that, more than likely you may have encountered somebody who was projecting their stuff on to you. But if you take it to somebody in that friend circle, or maybe your sister and your best friend and your I don't know, your pastor, maybe your counselor, maybe these five people, and two of them are like, girl, now you sometimes show up like that, then you can say, okay, I need to hear that feedback. Listen, you know your intention, but you don't know how others are experiencing you. And if you truly want to elevate not just what you do, but who you are, it's going to require that you slow your life down long enough, pause and pay attention to understand why you do what you do. Okay, that's it for today's bite-sized breakthrough for busy women. Your transformational moment for today. If you haven't already, make sure you sign up for bite-sized breakthroughs for busy women. These are the kind of moments that we're going to have every week to help you transform your life one aha at a time. I'll see you at the next day.